When you hear about forbidden places, we aren't simply talking about your older sibling's bedroom who keeps locking you out, but rather areas protected by officials for your own safety. Hello everyone, welcome to Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm Melanie, the host for today's video, as we talk about the top 5 forbidden places on Earth more terrifying than Area 51. And for number 5, we have the Paris Catacombs. Paris, France is often referred to as the City of Love, with iconic buildings like the Eiffel Tower many dream to visit. But have you heard about the Catacombs of Paris? They are underground ossuaries, which is a site made to serve as the final resting place of human skeletal remains, but not only 1 or 2 remains, but more than 6 million people. It was first created as an effort to eliminate the city's overflowing cemeteries, and work began in 1774 after several basement walls collapsed around the Holy Innocents Cemetery, which gathered a sense of urgency. And from 1786, when night came, wagons would transfer remains from most of Paris' cemeteries to a mine shaft, but over years and years it was actually forgotten about. That was until it became a place for concerts and other private events in the early 19th century after further renovations and the construction of accesses around it. It was open to the public to visit from 1874, but since 2013 the catacombs have been managed by Paris Musees and only certain sections are open for the public to visit. But because it is like an underground maze down there with tons of skeletons everywhere, it is hard to fully regulate, and in 2004, police actually discovered a fully equipped movie theater in an area of the catacomb, which included a giant cinema screen, seats, projection equipment, and film reels of recent thrillers and film noir classics, plus a fully stocked bar and a restaurant with tables and chairs. And because it is located directly under the streets of Paris, there are hidden entries all around the city, with those who are curious can't help but to take a peek, which is extremely dangerous because they are mainly built through sandstone, which is soft and can collapse when brittle or dry, or even when it's saturated with water. There are tight and small tunnels which sometimes you need to go on your belly to get through. Plus, other risks include slippery or uneven terrain, low ceilings, falling debris, poor air quality, and so much more. And if you get lost down there, even with a map, there are still areas with 2 levels which can lead to falling, and you can't call anyone down there. And if you didn't come prepared with a flashlight, good luck. As interesting as I find the catacombs, just knowing 6 million skeletons are there is enough to keep me out for good. And at number 4, we have North Sentinel Islands. When you think of islands, you may think of tropical vacations filled with vegetation and sea life. But look anywhere but North Sentinel Islands, because this place is protected from the outside world for a very good reason. It is one of the Andaman Islands located in the Bay of Bengal and is about 8 kilometers or 5 miles long and 7 kilometers or 4.3 miles wide. The area is approximately 60 square kilometers or 23 square miles. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation 1956 prohibits travel to the island and any approach closer than 5 nautical miles or 9.3 kilometers. And if you're wondering why the public has to stay off the island and even keep a distance, it's because there are actually still a remaining tribal community living out there away from the world's advancements. In fact, they aren't protected against infectious diseases due to the likelihood that they haven't developed immunity. But just because it's prohibited, it hasn't stopped every single person from trying to sneak a peek at the island. Back in 2018, American missionary John Allen Chau wanted to spread Christianity to everyone, which included those on the isolated tribe. So he traveled to Port Blair, which is the capital of the Andaman Islands and Nicobar Islands, where in October he began to prepare by creating an initial contact kit, which included items like picture cards for communication, gifts, medical equipment, as well as other necessities. And in November, John attempted to visit in a fishing boat, which took him around 500 to 700 meters from shore, and the fishermen warned him not to go any further. But regardless, he canoed closer towards the island with a waterproof Bible. He had a few failed attempts, which eventually resulted in a boy piercing an arrow through John's Bible he held in front of his chest. But on November 17th, it was his final time visiting, as he instructed the fishermen to abandon him, which the fishermen later saw the islanders dragging John's body, and the next day saw his body being buried on the shore. The Indian officials actually made several attempts to recover John's body, but had to abandon those efforts after the risk between investigators and islanders were too great.
Number 5. Hockomock Swamp. Already sounds pretty scary in itself. Something about swamps, you know what I mean? During the 17th century, the Hockomock Swamp was used as a fortress by the Wampanoag people, the predominant band of natives in the area, against invasion by the early British settlers. It played a landscape role in King Philip's War as a strategic base of which to launch assaults with nearby English settlements. During the 18th and 19th centuries, settlers deemed the swamp to be useless, barren land, and it didn't really do much besides sit there and just kind of take up space. They attempted to drain it and convert it into a profitable farmland, however, nothing really grew. The natives of the region placed a much higher value on the swamp, however, for centuries. The first people had relied on hunting food there, riddled with fauna, and the swamp had gained an important legend and folklore among them as being a place where many things meet. They named it Hockomock, the Algonquin term meaning place where spirits dwell, and that's exactly what people say they do. Dwell there. What makes this swamp so haunted is the different purposes it was used for. A cesspool for bones of the fallen. Some places are just more susceptible to violence and death over the years, and that reputation of spirits lingering is what's so heavy and cold about this location. Much of the swamp served a dual purpose as a sacred burial ground as well. The Hockomock is occasionally referred to as the home of the Hobomok. The Wampanoag people worshipped and feared Hobomok, the chief deity of death and disease. Hobomok, composed of human souls of the dead, was known to congregate in areas like the Hockomock Swamp. Thus the term and lore stuck. Yep, just a giant mud monster swallowing souls. Charming. There are many stories and legends that have become associated with this swamp and are even connected to the number 1 on my list. It remains a place of mystery and fear and apparently good frog catching. Number 4. Lowell Cemetery. Lowell Cemetery is a cemetery located in Lowell, Massachusetts. Founded in 1841 and located on the banks of the Concord River, the cemetery is one of the oldest garden cemeteries in the country, making it a perfect place for violence and an eternity of soul searching. Many of Lowell's wealthy industrialists are buried here under lavish Victorian tombstones. Visitors have claimed that this is one of Massachusetts' most haunted cemeteries. What makes a haunted cemetery more haunted than another haunted cemetery, you know? Is there like a competition or like a quota or something? Just gotta keep the numbers up. What is it? I feel like every local claims their cemetery is the oldest and most haunted, and this brings me to our fair maiden here, the mysterious witch, Bonnie. A popular meeting place amongst the local teens at night for some scares and some screams, the statue of a woman with her arms outstretched on a rectangular tomb, her hands clutching a veil that falls down behind her body as though it were a cloak caught in the wind. Her eyes lay cold, staring at the heavens. Under her left eye, a black tear. Paranormal researchers have claimed that the statue holds more of an electromagnetic current, and strange things can be seen in front and around the statue, making it seem like it's moving from time to time. Creepy. There is local lore that if you leave a coin or ribbon on the statue, then you'll get good luck, and in return, if you steal or take the items from the statue, the haunting whispers of bad karma will follow. Although research shows that this gravesite holds no actual sinister history, the ghostly sightings surrounding it are a hotspot within the cemetery. I bet at night under the moonlight this woman could be very terrifying. Number 3. Boston Common. Most common fact about the Common, one of the most haunted places in Boston. That rhymed really weird, didn't it? If you're out for a walk and feel the need to brush up on your American history, then you can be sure to either see the ladies by the trees or the patriot men rushing the battlefront. Well, what's left behind from them at least. The Boston Common had a multi-purpose identity through the centuries. Originally as a farm and then trading grounds for the British and American military, the Common was used as a camp during the American Revolutionary War. 20 minutes to load these old muskets and a lot of people dying. It was also used for public hangings up until 1817, most of which were from the large oaks, which were eventually all replaced with gallows in 1769. These grounds held weight during the witch trials and made a perfect open concept park that a spectacle could be enjoyed at. These people were sick. This place has seen its fair share of violence. The 350-year-old park is full of graves, ghosts, and gallows. It's almost impossible to know just how many bodies lay underneath the park, like a cesspool of unmarked graves from many different eras. Most buried here were low class, sick, or died in battle. Oh, and of course were hanged in front of the public. This place is home to many dark shadows, cold spots, and the occasional smell of gunpowder. Next time you're in Boston, swing by one of America's oldest and fullest cemeteries and see if you can see anything for yourself. Number 2. The Danvers State Hospital. The Danvers State Hospital, or also known as the Danvers State Insane Asylum, was a psychiatric hospital located in Danvers, Massachusetts. It was built in 1874 and opened in 1878 on the isolated site in rural Massachusetts, which, fun fact, the judge who preceded the Salem witch trials lived on. That's bad karma already, isn't it? Despite being included in the National Registry for Historical Places in 1984, the majority of the building was demolished in 2007. At a cost of $1.5 million at the time, the hospital originally consisted of 2 main center buildings with housing for the administration, with 4 radiating wings on each side. The outermost wards were reserved for the most hostile patients. This was a prominent location where medications were being tested by the government, and the favored lobotomy was being fleshed out. When shock therapy failed to control the population, lobotomies started, and in 1939 the population of the hospital swelled to almost over 2,400 patients. A total of 278 people died at the hospital that same year. Neurology experts often call Danvers the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy. Ouch. Visitors to the hospital during these years reported lobotomy patients wandering around staring blankly at nothing, unaware of who they were or what they were doing. Large budget cuts in the 60s played a major role in the progression of closing the Danvers State Hospital, and with nicknames like Hell Hill Hospital and Lunatic Asylum, the hospital began slowly closing its facilities by 1985. The original hospital wards were closed and abandoned soon after. During the 80s, reports began to filter out of the hospital about missing teenage patients. The stories of ghostly figures and shadows in the windows were thriving. Are the ghosts of the lobotomized patients still aimlessly walking the realms of this now demolished hospital? What do you think? And number 1, the Bridgewater Triangle. Just a couple miles south of Boston is one of the most interesting and bizarre places in Massachusetts. I chose this as the number 1 spot due to not only the paranormal ghostly figures that have been seen across the vast plains, but 200 miles of connected weird events that will definitely catch our attention. It's named from the triangle shape. The paranormal events and phenomenon that occurs within these mapped lines includes as many as orbs, UFOs, Bigfoots, fairies, skinwalkers, alien hybrids, you name it, it's there. Well, possibly there. The towns of Raynham, Brockton, Norton, and Taunton are all subject to a universal head scratcher. In the 70s, there of course was a surge of UFO witnesses, at the same time several Bigfoot. Huh, that's interesting. Massachusetts just keeps getting stranger and stranger, doesn't it? Huge humanoid creatures, motherships, and landed UFOs have also been spotted and reported within this 200 square foot mile radius. Do you think this place is like a Skinwalker Ranch type of place? Maybe some motherships are trying to just reconnect with the Wi-Fi upstairs? I don't know. Whatever it is, the Bridgewater Triangle has been home to numerous documentaries and folklore and attracts spooky goers each year with its variety of paranormal activity.
And for our number 3, we have the Doomsday Vault. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault, also known as the Doomsday Vault, is located deep in an icy mountain on an island above the Arctic Circle between Norway and the North Pole, and holds great importance for the future. Surprisingly, it is a storage for seeds. Yes, you heard me right, it holds millions of seeds from more than 930,000 varieties of food crops, and they are stored in this vault. And 13,000 years of agricultural history, its main purpose is to provide a long-term storage of duplicate seeds conserved in gene banks around the world and provide security of the world's food supply. In events such as war, natural disasters, and even a pandemic, this vault aims to prevent the permanent loss of crops. Each country deposits copies of the seeds they hold in their own banks, and they remain property of the depositing countries, which is then withdrawn in the event that their own stockpile is compromised. In 2015, the vault was used to restart the International Center of Agricultural Research in the dry areas after the Alpo seed bank had been abandoned during the Syrian civil war. And in order to preserve the contents, the Arctic Vault is protected by nearly 400 feet of rocks with high ceilings, and according to those who work in the vault, because you're inside a mountain, there's hardly any sound and all you can hear is yourself. In fact, countries like North Korea even store their seeds in this vault in the same aisle as the South Korean seeds. The vault opens 3 times a year to accept new deposits from the other seed banks from around the world. Instead of flying there to see the place yourself, they actually have virtual tours online, and maybe I'll run into you there. And for our number 2, we have the Mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of the Qin dynasty, known as Shanxi Emperor from 1643 to 1661, has a mausoleum located in the Lintong district of China and was constructed over 38 years ago between 246 and 208 BCE. It sits beneath a 76-meter tall tomb, and the layout of the mausoleum is modeled on the layout of the capital of the Qin dynasty. There are thousands of statues located at this site, which is crazy because it wasn't discovered until 1974, and the emperor is buried and surrounded by terracotta warriors, and each figure is different. Some have horses and others have weapons, and they all hold details of realism. There are approximately 8,000 life-size statues of soldiers which all surround the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, and were built to protect the emperor in the afterlife, even though the emperor himself has traditionally been portrayed quite poorly. The tomb of China's first emperor has not yet been opened, and archaeologists share how they are afraid it is filled with traps. Sima Qian, who is a historian who lived around 100 years after the emperor and wrote a description of the mausoleum which read, "Palaces and scenic towers for 100 officials were constructed, and the tomb was filled with rare artifacts and wonderful treasure." But along with all the treasure, they also wrote how craftsmen at the time were ordered to make crossbows and arrows specifically to attack anyone who enters the tomb. But that's not all, because mercury and candles made from fat were talked about, which some fear was inside. Although scientists fear opening the tomb, they did measure mercury levels around the area of the mausoleum, and they were much higher than expected, which some believe the emperor drank and could have played a role in his early passing. Some things from the mausoleum have been uncovered, such as a 666-piece ancient armor, which was estimated to take around 440 days to complete by a skilled craftsman. Whether treasure is really hidden inside the tomb, maybe one day we'll know. And for our number one spot, we have Snake Island. This island, located off the coast of Brazil, lives up to its name because it is infested with thousands of deadly snakes. The area of this island is around 106 acres, and the terrain varies from bare rocks to rainforest. And Snake Island is the only natural home of the critically endangered venomous Bothrops insularis, also known as a golden lancehead pit viper, which actually eats birds. There is an estimated number of around 2,000 to 4,000 of this rare snake species, but within an hour of being bit, it can be fatal, which means you would have to make it to the hospital located off the island quickly in order to have a chance of survival. And if you're wondering how the snakes ended up trapped on this island, well, it's because of thousands of years ago, following the end of the last ice age, rising ocean levels disconnected the island from the mainland, and due to the evolutionary pressure, it allowed the snakes to adapt to their new environment, as well as an increasing for their population very quickly. Of course, they have a ton of snakes, but this island is one of the few islands that have 3 to 5 times stronger venom compared to any mainland snake, which makes it that much more dangerous. Plus, back in the early 1990s, a few people actually inhabited this island and was tasked with running the lighthouse, but according to a legend, this family passed due to the snakes, and since then, the lighthouse has been automated. And if you're one of those rare humans that actually want to visit this island, it is closed to the public for protection of both people and the snakes. It is only accessible by the Brazilian Navy and selected researchers. And those aren't baby tiny snakes, but rather quite big ones with no predators on the island. But good thing is they don't swim, so they should hopefully stay on the island.
Number 5 on this list is the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum. Most haunted museums, or anything like that, are all kind of phony and corny. This one though, this isn't for the faint of heart. Thrillist says when Zach Bagans opened the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, he did his homework and picked the creepiest place possible. The attraction is inside an old Victorian home that dates back to 1938. It was owned by a family haunted by a child who died due to surgical complications. Later, when the home was vacant, intruders broke in and held satanic rituals in the basement. Adult actress Jenna Jameson actually grew up in the house and swears the stories are true, but doesn't like to talk about it too much. Today, you can take a guided tour of the Haunted Museum, frequently used as a filming location for Bagans' ghost adventures on the Travel Channel and Discovery Plus. The museum packs a lot into one visit with more than 30 rooms. Things start off relatively tame with a look at spooky artifacts and a gambling parlor and a closet full of creepy dolls. But the pace picks up with exhibits dedicated to notorious serial killers, an up-close look at a Volkswagen van used as a death machine by Jack Kevorkian, and a haunted hallway of killer clowns. It's best not to give away too many spoilers, but at one point you'll face an item described as the most haunted object in the whole world. You will even get to explore the basement at some point, which many people believe to still be extremely haunted. You gotta wonder why the heck so many horrible things happened here. Haunted child, satanic rituals, other questionable things that have probably not been leaked to the public. I guess it makes sense to have a haunted museum here, but obviously bringing in all of these other haunted items has just further promoted paranormal energy, and now this is clearly a hotspot for spirits and ghosts alike. Only go to this museum if you can handle a good scare. Number 4 on this list is Rhyolite Ghost Town. This abandoned town is full of scary spirits, ghouls, and maybe a lot more. Thrillist says, take a short road trip out of Las Vegas and spend the afternoon exploring the ruins of Rhyolite, one of the most compelling ghost towns in the country. A hub of mining activity during the gold rush, the town was quickly abandoned when the boom went bust following the panic of 1907. Wander around and you'll see the scattered remains of a bank, jail, and train depot. The landscape looks more like a nuclear war zone than a ghost town, but just as sinister and perhaps still home to the spirits who once lived there many years ago. We have talked a ton about ghost towns on this channel before. Something about ghost towns seems to attract spirits. Maybe like the sudden absence of people leaves a void that these spirits seem to want to fill. It also doesn't help the situation when you have people doing some very questionable things at these ghost towns. Considering they are totally abandoned and out of the way, ghost towns make for some pretty good places to have some covert meetings and deals go down. This one in Las Vegas, it's no different. Apparently a decent amount of criminal activity happens around here, with a lot of drug deals taking place here. Every now and again these deals can go sour, and usually that leaves a body. Murder and a gang presence aren't great things to sprinkle in when a town is already dealing with paranormal activity. For safety purposes, I recommend staying away from this town at all costs.
Number 3, the USS Salem. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Well, almost. A big boat. The USS Salem, a heavy cruiser built for World War II in 1945, was originally built for action. Its bold, aggressive architecture was one of the last, as it was more of a bluff to its opponents than actually a hero of war. In May 1949, War Departments handed the Salem's helm to Captain J.C. Daniel himself. The ship was built and updated with what was then the latest military tech and weapons, and it was meant to strike fear in whomever or whatever was in her way. Although the ship wasn't used in any action during World War II, it acted as a flagship, training operation, and main purpose as a threat to the naval enemy. It wasn't until the USS Salem had responded to the 1953 Ionian earthquake, or also known as the Great Kefalonia earthquake, as it hit the southern Ionian islands of Greece on August 12th, devastating the entire area. The USS Salem landed on Greek shores and acted as an improvised hospital and morgue, giving it its famous name, the Sea Witch. The ship was decommissioned shortly after its rescue and lays in Boston's harbor as a tourist attraction from all of its dark history. Some of the paranormal activities that arise on the ship include the Burning Man, who smells of rank death and can be seen in the mess hall where the bodies have been stored. Another famous apparition on the ship is the ghost girls who lurk the halls of the ship. Little ghostly figures can be seen and felt on the legs of tour goers. Some people claim that the ship is even home to hellhounds, an aggressive pack of ghostly creatures that roam the ship, growling and scratching at closed doors. Yeah, the next time my dog scratches at my door, she's going up for adoption, I'm sorry. Number 2, the Lizzie Borden house. This quaint bed and breakfast located at 230 2nd Street is home to one of America's most haunted and mysterious homes. The Lizzie Borden house gets its haunt from an unsolved murder of Lizzie Borden in 1892. One of the most infamous true crime figures, known for her murdering of her father and stepmother with several blows to the head with a hatchet. Oof, ouch. Although acquitted, the killings remain unsolved to this day. This case earned notoriety, and much that the popular local children's rhyme had been linked to this death. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. That is horrible. On August 4th, 1892, Lizzie's stepmother of 27 was struck 19 times while her father Andrew was hit 11. Although Lizzie Borden was acquitted and found not guilty, the dark history draws in crowds every night for its nightly tour of the premises. The Lizzie Borden room, the infamous room where all of the murders took place, is the most requested and most popular for paranormal overnighters. And not only can you enjoy a lovely inclusive breakfast to yourself, but the nightly house tour, ghost tour, and ghost hunt attracts fans of horror every night of the year. Yeah, that's terrifying. And there's a jingle to it. I don't like that at all. And coming in at number 1, the Salem witch trials. We can't talk about haunted places in Massachusetts if we're not going to bring up the witch trials. And I'm not talking about Sabrina the Teenage Witches, or anything of cute of that nature. These famously documented witch trials need no introduction, and unfortunately lays way to one of the most horrific events based in truth. The site of mass hysteria and hangings of supposed witches took place here and occurred in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693. More than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, or better known back then as the devil's magic, and 20 were ultimately executed. Eventually, the colony admitted the trials were a mistake and compensated the families of those convicted. Okay, yeah, sorry. I just thought when you sneezed, you didn't say bless you, so I already don't like you, so I figured you were a witch. I'm really sorry. Since then, the story of the trials has become famous in paranoia and injustice, and it continues to baffle researchers to this day. We all know the famous play written by American playwright Arthur Miller in 1953, The Crucible, depicting the mass hysteria and drama during these trials. This was the perfect time if you didn't like someone that a strategic and untimely sinister accusation led to the demise of thy neighbor. I saw Sarah Good with the devil. I saw Goody Osborne with the devil. Who else don't I like? I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil. Abigail. End of Act 1. Since the start of the trials and hysteria in North America, other European countries shortly followed with their own mass witch hunts, resulting in somewhere between 40,000 and 60,000 tried and executed for witchcraft. That's a lot of broomsticks. The Salem Witch Trials of Salem, Massachusetts is still one of the world's biggest hotspots for mystery and paranormal story.
Number 5 on this list is Villa Paula. This haunted place is located in Miami and has quite the interesting guest in the backyard. Thrillist says, this stately white mansion was originally constructed as the Cuban consulate in the mid-1920s, home to Consul Domingo Millard and his wife, Paula. The Cuban-born Paula was known to spend her days playing piano and drinking Cuban coffee until she died from complications from a leg amputation in 1932. Legend has it that Domingo interred his late wife in a sarcophagus laid in the backyard. The sarcophagus is still there now, covered by ficus tree roots and nearly impossible to reach. Whether or not it actually contains her mortal remains is debatable at best, but reports of her ghost persist. It's said her ghost is in different rooms there, says History Miami's Dr. Paul George. People who've lived at Villa Paula since have had existential kinds of experiences. Among them, phantom coffee smells and piano playing, a one-legged woman roaming about as well. So there is a literal sarcophagus just chilling in this person's backyard. Can you imagine having that just show up on the house listing? I'd be like, no, we are not okay with that. I'm kind of surprised that no one has gone to go deal with the sarcophagus before. I mean, you can't just leave this thing down there like that and expect the ghost to just go away. I would imagine that Paula's spirit is probably tied to the sarcophagus, and in turn it's tied to the area. Granted, I do kind of understand why no one wants to dig it up. Think about all the crazy stuff that's happened with the pyramids. You dig up this sarcophagus and you might end up being cursed for life, which is obviously something that nobody wants. But now we're left in this awkward place where we can't get rid of the ghost, but at the same time can't live here either. That's why I'm recommending to all of you watching, just avoid Villa Paula altogether. Number 4 on this list is the Blue Anchor Pub. So this is an interesting one because this pub didn't actually start in Florida. Thrillist says this pub was built in 1840s London during Jack the Ripper times, so it should be no surprise that it's haunted. The story goes that the bar was raised in London, but its wooden interiors were sent to New York City and then onto this sleepy Florida town in 1996. Little did anyone know that the pub's original elements came with the ghost of Bertha Starkley, a cheating wife who was murdered by her husband. Today, she can be heard rattling pots, knocking things over, and wailing in the middle of the night at the Blue Anchor. Every night around 10 p.m., the time that she was murdered, Bertha likes to remind everyone she's still here, so the current owners ring the ship's bell to scare her away. So, first thing, I've never actually heard of that before, where they take a building from one continent and then just decide to move it over to another continent. This bar must look pretty cool on the inside to go to all that trouble though. Obviously this was a bit of a mistake and everyone would have been better served if we relocated this thing straight to the dump. Bertha doesn't care if it's in London or America or anywhere. As long as the structure of this pub is still intact, her ghost will still be floating around, which makes it very hard to enjoy a night out at this place. Like imagine drowning several pints, going to take a piss, and then getting ambushed by some 1800s ghost in the bathroom with your pee-pee hanging out. Like, I don't know if I'd ever be able to recover from that, folks. Number 3 on this list is Central City Masonic Cemetery. Of course we had to have a cemetery on this list. No haunted place list would be complete without at least one of them. Thrillist says, founded as a mining town in the late 1800s, Central City is now known as a destination for those looking to head to the hills for a gambling fix in the casinos that now dot the area. But one thing hasn't changed. The woman in black who twice a year appears in this hilltop cemetery above the town. Known as the Columbine Lady, she comes to visit the grave of John Cameron, a prominent former resident of Central City who died in 1884. Some believe she is his fiancée, appearing to leave flowers for her lost love on November 1st, the anniversary of Cameron's death, and April 5th, a date for which the significance remains a mystery, much like the woman herself. This place is safe to go to if, of course, you do not go during these times. She's been coming for a long time, and anyone who tried to interfere with her has had to pay the price. Now, people kind of suspect that she was in a relationship with John Cameron, but there's also another theory. Many people think that John actually wronged her in his life, and that this woman in black comes twice a year to double check that John is still dead and hasn't come back to life by some means. Pretty scary tale for sure, one that you probably don't want to get involved with. Number 2 on this list is the Broadmoor. Located in Colorado Springs, this hotel would be freaking awesome if it wasn't so haunted. Thrillist says this sprawling 5-star hotel has a lot to offer for anyone seeking a relaxing and indulgent getaway. But along with the golf course, spa, and nearby zoo, there's one feature you won't find in any brochure. Staff and guests alike have reported the presence of a woman, often in the penthouse where Julia Penrose, co-founder of the property, once lived. While not confirmed, Penrose's death is said to have been surrounded by a strange occurrence in which she went missing and was later found, confused and shaking in the woods nearby with no memory of how she got there. She passed away a week later, and perhaps her spirit remains, watching over the property and seeking answers about her own mysterious death. Now I am wondering, man, how did Penrose die? Like, this whole story feels like a movie or something like that. I truly think somebody needs to get in here and investigate what the heck happened here. Because, like, should we be scared of the region because this is gonna happen again? Was Julia doing something specific before she disappeared, and should we avoid doing that thing? There are just so many questions that need to be answered here, and sadly I can't do it from the comfort of Toronto. That being said, I'm also not trying to end up like Julia, and therefore will be leaving this job to somebody far more qualified. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Highlands Ranch Mansion. A truly picturesque mansion, one that's been standing for over 100 years and one that's home to a ghostly spirit. Thrillist says this sprawling stone mansion, built in 1891, is often rented for weddings and events due to its impressive structural beauty and picturesque prairie views. But it's also a historic property and somewhat of a museum of the times, with a bit of paranormal activity sprinkled in. The ghost of Julia Kistler, daughter of F. Kistler, who bought the property in 1926, is said to haunt the home, with visitors and staff alike reporting hearing a woman's sobs, seeing a silhouette figure moving about when the mansion was otherwise vacant, and lights sporadically turning on and off. I don't know about you guys, but during my wedding ceremony, I want to hear beautiful sounding music, not the sobs of some ghost woman thing. Apparently she's crying all the time, and this woman's emotions are not something to play with. There's a story where once several children were playing around here. There was a wedding ceremony scheduled here for later that day, and the children were off doing what kids do before the proceedings got underway. They ran into this ghost crying, and then they started to make fun of her. They were rude and definitely unkind, but they also didn't deserve what she did next. It's said that in a fit of rage, she flew inside their bodies and possessed each and every one of them for a short time, showing them things that were truly terrifying. Things that have ultimately changed those boys' lives and altered their mentality forever. Any ghost that's capable of doing something like that, that's one that I don't want to be around. Number 5 on this list is the Molly Brown House. If you live in Denver, then there is no way that you aren't familiar with this haunted place. Thrillist says you've no doubt heard of the Molly Brown House and likely passed it on the street once or twice too. Molly Brown was a notable member of Denver's elite and perhaps known best for being a Titanic survivor, and despite allegedly living a relatively happy life, visitors to the museum and staff have reported quite a bit of strange happenings. Some have smelled what's believed to be husband J.J. Brown's pipe, or have witnessed lights off and on the fritz, and staff have reported furniture being seemingly rearranged. Sometimes figures can even be seen roaming the house. A visit is worth it alone for the history, but the potential for getting a bit spooked or walking into a cold spot is definitely an added bonus. We once again have one of those locations where no one has any idea why it's haunted. It just is. Maybe it's the connection to the Titanic that has got this place acting funky. Obviously, that was a very unnatural occurrence and took the lives of tons of people in a very sad way. So I could believe that the Titanic and the survivor of the Titanic plays some role into why this place is haunted the way that it is. Good news is that this isn't the worst haunting that you can run into. Like, yes, you will get a little scared for sure. You might smell something funny, or have a ghost pull something on you, or even maybe have small valuables go missing. But ultimately, you probably shouldn't be dragged to the underworld here by some shadow demon or anything like that. So I guess if you were to visit any place on this list, then this one wouldn't be the worst. Just be prepared for what's coming, because if you aren't, then it could leave you with some serious mental trauma. Number 4 on this list is Phantom Canyon Road. You need to be very careful on this road because there is a good chance you could suffer a serious crash if you aren't. Thrillist says a haunted road is one thing, but a haunted road in Colorado means you're likely on the edge of a mountain and at some serious elevation. Phantom Canyon Road is a detour off the Gold Belt Tour byway connecting Cripple Creek and Florence, and was originally the railroad for that route. As you drive along, you can clearly see the ghost towns of Wilbur, Adelaide, and Glenbrook, and legend has it that the reason for Phantom Canyon's name is credited to sightings of a man wearing a prison uniform walking along the tracks in the 1890s. The man supposedly had been executed at the Colorado State Penitentiary a few days earlier. So yeah guys, you better have your wits about you, because if you don't, this ghost might come out and startle the crap out of you, and then the next thing you know, you're gonna be face deep into a tree somewhere. It also just adds to the horror ambiance that you're driving past several ghost towns along the way. Like, of course, they just had to be on the side of the road as you're also getting stalked by this ghost prisoner. No one really knows what this prisoner wants with you, but let's face it, I can't imagine it's good. My dude was executed back in the day, so for one, what he did was probably pretty bad to warrant a punishment like that, and then secondly, he literally got executed, and I can only guess that his ghost probably isn't too pleased about that. Y'all need to be especially careful if you're driving down this road, because at any point this guy could pop out.
And coming in at number 5, we have the Houghton Mansion. Built in the 1890s in North Adams, Massachusetts. For the mayor himself, Albert Charles Houghton. This neoclassical revival-style mansion sits on 172 Church Street. A family man, Albert was the president of Arnold Print Works, a prominent textile factory in North Adams. His wife, Cordelia, daughter Mary, and himself had owned and lived on the property right up until the fatal car accident which took the lives of the family in 1914. On an early summer morning, Albert and his family, accompanied by another family, Dr. and Mrs. Dutton and their daughter, and of course the family chauffeur himself, Mr. Witters, had decided to head out into the countryside for a leisurely drive, a drive that ultimately took their lives. Unfortunately, for everyone on that August 1st morning, after a steep turn, the car lost control and proceeded to screech off the road, resulting in a rolling fatal wreck. All the women in this tragedy losing their lives, with the men barely surviving from the multitude of injuries. On August 11th, just 10 days after the accident, without his wife and daughter, Albert mysteriously died in the home from what doctors think was a broken heart. It is said that 3 ghosts haunt the Houghton Mansion, including Albert himself, Albert's daughter Mary, and the driver, Mr. Witters. The mansion remained with the Houghton family until 1926, when Albert's daughter Florence and her husband sold the building to the Freemasons. This is when the spookiness really started happening. Through its multitude of use throughout the years, additions to this historic site were added on by the Masons, using it for ritual and spiritual purposes, making this story even weirder. Over the years, there have been countless paranormal witnesses claiming that the ghosts roaming the halls of the basement, Mr. Witters himself, guilt-ridden with the responsibility of the crash, and Mr. Witters took his own life shortly after returning home with injuries, and residents that have stayed at the site have claimed that the manly figure aimlessly rummaging through the basement is the driver himself. Among these claims have another spirit lurking in Mary's bedroom. It is said that overnighters have witnessed multiple bright lights and auras flying around the bedroom in the middle of the night. I wouldn't even step foot into this house, let alone set up camp and spend the night. No way. The Houghton Mansion remains a tourist attraction and hotspot for paranormal goers worldwide, and to this day is one of the most haunted and mysterious sites in all of Massachusetts. Number 4. The Hoosac Tunnel. The Hoosac Tunnel, from the Algonquin word place of stones and the Mohawk word forbidden, is a 4.75 mile active railroad tunnel in western Massachusetts that passes through the Hoosac Range, an extension of Vermont's Green Mountains, and runs from Deerfield River in the town of Florida to the city of North Adams. The construction began in 1815 and ending in 1875 with a budget of $2 million, at the time the largest tunnel ever constructed, and it was later the result of taking lives of over 200 men during its construction entirety, earning it the nickname from locals, the Bloody Pit. This haunted, barren 5-mile, completely enclosed stretch was subject to multiple accidents and deaths over the years, giving the tunnel its haunting history and reputation of being cursed itself. With the word forbidden, did the Mohawks know something that the workers didn't? Essentially, this cold, underground, pitch-black hole became one of America's strangest grave sites, resulting in everything from mysterious gas leaks, dynamite explosions, roofs collapsing, and even mechanic failures resulting in a mass flood. For the past decades, there have been numerous paranormal activity witnesses who have documented strange events, from police officers to the freight conductors themselves. Some of the reports over the last 100 years included numerous farmers and wagons ending up in different areas of the railroad, missing hours of time. The farmers had claimed that when spending time around the railroad and its tracks, that memory and confusion would always set in. Some residents have claimed that they have even been chased out of the tunnel by an unexpected freight train chugging along aggressively through the tunnel like a bat out of hell, and then vanishing. Numerous ghostly figures resembling workers roam the dark tunnel, and if that isn't scary enough, some people, including hearing the echoes and screams of even the workers who were buried alive under the rock, still holding their tools, or even seeing ghostly figures in pumping chambers where numerous men tirelessly making rafts not to drown. The Hoosac Tunnel remains one of the most visited and haunted places, marking it just one of the sites you'll probably never find me at. Just in 2020, the tunnel was yet again subject to a mysterious collapse, resulting in months of repair. Yeah, I say stop fixing it and just let it be.
Number 3 on this list is Westgate. So I am actually breaking the rules with this one a little bit, because I think that you should definitely visit this place if you have the money. Thrillist says some Las Vegas residencies never quite end. Elvis Presley redefined what it meant to be a superstar entertainer in this town, with more than 600 shows over 7 years at the International Hotel, which became the Las Vegas Hilton and is now the Westgate. The property continues to honor the king with a statue in the hotel lobby. Although Elvis passed away in Memphis, Some believe his soul remains in Vegas, with his ghost haunting the Westgate International Theater and a lavish rooftop villa the singer called home whenever he was in town. It's not cheap, but you can book the penthouse yourself. Just call the desk and ask for the Elvis suite. I don't care how creepy it may be or how scary he would look, but if there is an opportunity to see the ghost of Elvis, then that is absolutely something that I definitely want to cash in on. Imagine you pull up to your hotel room after a night of drinking, and then you get to have a late night conversation with one of the greatest rock stars of all time ever. I don't think that Elvis would be the type of dude to hurt you or anything like that, even in ghost form. So as long as it's safe to do so, count me the heck in, dude. I want to go to Vegas and party with the ghost of Elvis. Number 2 on this list is Las Vegas Academy of the Arts. As somebody who graduated university for acting, and art school being haunted is just a tad bit triggering. Thrillist says the Las Vegas Academy of the Arts is a magnet school that specializes in music, theater, and other fine arts. Yet its legacy dates back to 1931, when it was known simply as Las Vegas High School, the first official high school in Las Vegas. The site has seen its share of renovations over the years, although 2 of its 3 original buildings remain on campus with their sturdy brick exteriors still in place. Generations of students have swapped stories about Mr. Petrie, a ghost that roams the hallways and haunts the school's theater. Some claim to hear strange noises or feel a chill, especially when rehearsals carry over to evening hours. So, who is Mr. Petrie? Some believe he was a former teacher. Others claim he owned a home that previously stood on the site of the school and burned down in a mysterious fire. Nobody knows for sure. All everyone does know is that Mr. Petrie is a menace. Let me tell you folks, acting is hard enough as it is without some creepy ghost causing problems for you mid-monologue. And apparently he likes to do that all the time. Many shows and performances have been ruined by Mr. Petrie, and the worst part about it is that he will only show himself to one person at a time sometimes. So the lead actor will be out there doing Hamlet and then all of a sudden see a ghost in front of him causing problems. The actor will naturally freak out and lose their mind, but no one else will see the ghost. They'll just see the actor on stage losing it. Which kind of makes the actor look like a bumbling idiot, but really they're getting attacked by some ghost. Try a different art school if you're looking for an artistic education. Number 1 on this list is Bally's. If Trivago or any other site like that tries to recommend you stay at Bally's, don't fall for it, guys. Thrillist says the worst fire in Nevada history tore through the old MGM Grand Hotel on November 21st, 1980. The blaze killed 87 people, mostly due to smoke inhalation, while helicopters rescued survivors from the roof. The property was eventually sold and renamed Bally's, while a new version of the MGM Grand reopened a few blocks south on the Strip. The tower engulfed in the fire is still part of the hotel, and guests sometimes claim to see unusual shadows in hallways, hear strange noises, and notice furniture that mysteriously moves in the rooms, especially on higher floors that saw the worst of the flames. Many believe the strange activity is caused by the spirits of those who didn't survive the tragedy. 87 people dying in a tragedy like that is always going to leave something terrible behind, and that's what we have here. 87 spirits are now restlessly floating around in purgatory at this place. They tried to remodel and change the name and forget everything that happened, but an incident like that cannot be forgotten. The people who died and their spirits, they can't be forgotten. They're still there to this day, haunting the place and trying to seek help. Many of the reports haven't talked about these ghosts being evil, but just being misunderstood and trying to get out of this place. They didn't ask to die in a fire, and they also didn't ask to be left in this purgatory place forever. I would imagine that they want to move on, they just don't know how to get free of this. Hopefully someone can figure out a way to save these souls and let them pass on for good.
Number 5, Fengdu Ghost City. Fengdu Ghost City. Well, right off the bat, I feel like this is probably a spooky place. You don't name cities Ghost City unless there's a good reason for it. Well, the good reason is that the city got its name during the Eastern Han Dynasty. Two imperial nobles, Yin Changshen and Wang Fengpin, came to Ming Mountain to discover a way to achieve immortality. Combining their two names, Yin and Wang, Ying Wang, translates to King of Hell, and that cemented the site as an underworld hotspot. Since then, the place was built to be a shrine to the underworld, with several temples showing paintings and sculptures of people being punished for their sins and cast into eternal damnation. It's pretty spooky, but honestly it's pretty cool. It's good craftsmanship. And there is some rich folklore to go with the place. Chinese mythology and beliefs say that the dead must pass 3 tests before they're allowed to cross into the underworld, which sounds exhausting to me. I can't even enjoy the relief of death before you're asked to solve some riddles and pass some tests. The village is kind of like a place to conduct these tests, and now you can actually go to it yourself and do it as a tourist attraction and watch performers act out all the trials. But here's the trials. The first test is passing the Bridge of Helplessness, which does sound a little bit like it's from one of the Dark Souls games. It was built during the Ming Dynasty, and good souls are allowed to pass, while evil ones will fall into the water below. Then, you proceed to Ghost Torturing Pass. Oh, that's a fun place to be, where they present themselves for judgment. Finally, the last test is at the entrance to Tianzi Palace, where the ghost must stand on a certain stone on 1 foot for 3 minutes straight. I don't know why I'm standing on 1 foot when the camera is above my waist. You can't tell what I'm doing. I could be standing on as many feet as I want. A good soul will be able to do it, an evil one will fall over. Now this site now is a popular tourist destination due to its very unique structures and fascinating, if not a little bit horrifying decor. I'd want one of those little statues maybe have in my house. I think they're kind of cool, to be honest. And if you're looking for more hellish haunted spots, terrifying tales of poltergeists, ghosts, ghouls, cryptids, aliens, and all kinds of freaks under the sun and above it, while Top 5 Scary is simply the only place to be. Subscribe and stay scared. Number 4, Caishikou Grounds. If you go to Caishikou today, you probably wouldn't think much of it at all. Most notable thing around there is a subway station, and aside from that, there's a vegetable market outside, and you can probably score a pretty decent deal on corn. But if you visited Caishikou back in the 19th century, however, when it served as an execution grounds for prisoners, you probably wouldn't feel too welcome. Thousands of prisoners were brought to the Caishikou grounds to serve out their last moments. Every autumn, prisoners were taken through the Zhuanwumen, which earned the fun nickname, the Gate of Death at dawn. Awesome. The doomed would then be lined up east to west, their necks stretched by rope to make it easier to chop. Well, that's good. We always want to make it as easy as possible for the guy chopping necks. A singular chop to the neck was considered the easy way out of a one-way trip to Caishikou. Prisoners accused of more serious crimes would be sentenced to lingqi, which was a horrid punishment of slowly slicing someone many times, leading to it sensationally being dubbed the death of 1,000 cuts by outsiders. These executions were designed to be a public spectacle, something for everybody to come and enjoy, something for the whole family to do when no good movies were playing. Caishikou was one of the busiest intersections in the outer city of Beijing, so crowds would gather to see these things. Most horrifically about this, though, is that sometimes the prisoners who were executed, their bodies were photographed and made into postcards. Given this sordid history, is it much of a surprise at all that passers-by and visitors claim that they can sometimes see ghostly apparitions making their way through the dark hours of the night, or that you can hear screams at all hours? If you ever visit Beijing and make a stop by Caishikou, take a photo. The postcards they sell in the gift shop are a little dicey.
Number 3, Laperal House and Bahay Nupula. These two houses share a similar dark and horrific history. The Laperal House was built in 1920 and was occupied by the head of the Laperal clans, Don Roberto and Donna Victorina. But during the Second World War, Japanese soldiers took over the home and used it as a den to severely harm victims. Much like the Laperal House, Bahay Nupula was used as a base where they inflicted equally inhumane, despicable acts onto women. During the house's Japanese soldier occupation, soldiers would abduct citizens, accuse them of being American spies, and then harm them in every way known to man. The Laperal House is now considered one of the most haunted houses in the Philippines. Caretakers who work at the house have claimed to see headless ghosts dressed in soldiers' uniforms. They've said that they hear doors opening and closing, and some even said that they can still hear the ear-splitting screams and begs from the people who experienced torment in the house. The Laperal House has become a popular tourist attraction, drawing visitors who are intrigued by its rich history and supernatural oddities. Despite its strange reputation, the Laperal house stands as a testament to Baguio's architectural heritage and continues to fascinate both history enthusiasts and ghost hunters. Bahay Napula is a deep red house that is labeled as haunted because of the horrendous acts that Japanese soldiers forced onto abducted victims during World War II. At the time, it is said that Filipino guerrillas first used the house as a safe haven, where they would strategize and come together in the trying time. But Japanese soldiers took over the home. They left them without food until they perished. They violated local women without mercy, and they harmed people at random. The house is currently abandoned, but people who live near the area have reported hearing screams and wails calling out for help, and have even seen a group of ghostly Japanese soldiers walking around the house's property. The acts that were committed against innocent people are appalling and heartbreaking. Again, these houses are another example of deeply saddening locations that have become dark tourism attractions. Number 2, Ozone Disco. On March 18, 1996, at 11:35 p.m., the Philippines witnessed one of the deadliest nightclub disasters in its history, the Ozone Disco tragedy. The incident occurred at the Ozone Disco, a popular nightclub located in Quezon City, Metro Manila. It was a night that would forever haunt the nation's collective memory, leaving behind a legacy of grief, lessons learned, and calls for stricter safety regulations. That horrific night, the club was packed with hundreds of excited people, celebrating the end of the school year. The nightclub had gained a reputation for its trendy music and vibrant atmosphere, which drew a young and energetic crowd. The tragedy unfolded when an electric malfunction led to a massive fire which spread rapidly throughout the disco. The nightclub's inadequate safety measures exacerbated the situation. There was only one narrow exit. The club was at least 300 people over capacity, and the club itself did not have adequate emergency exits. As the flames engulfed the nightclub, screams for help filled the air. People clamored to locked doors, ending up in piles as the hot blazes tore at their skin. Tragically, 162 lives were lost that night, and countless others suffered injuries. Families were torn apart, and the nation was left in mourning. The Ozone Disco tragedy serves as a grim reminder of the importance of stringent safety standards in public establishments. The aftermath of the Ozone Disco tragedy prompted widespread outrage and calls for accountability. Investigations revealed a shocking lack of adherence to fire safety regulations and building codes. The nightclub's owners were subsequently charged with criminal negligence, and several government officials faced disciplinary actions for failing to enforce safety standards. The tragedy also led to significant changes in the Philippines' approach to fire safety and building regulations. It prompted the government to revisit and strengthen existing laws, ensuring that public establishments adhere to safety standards more rigorously. Moreover, the disaster prompted greater awareness among the public about the importance of fire safety and the need for responsible business practices. The Ozone Disco tragedy is a painful chapter in the Philippines' history, but it has not been forgotten. Each year on March 18th, memorial services and remembrances are held to honor the victims and reflect on the lessons learned. The tragedy serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of negligence and the critical importance of prioritizing safety in public places. The abandoned disco has since been boarded up. You cannot legally enter the building where such a tragedy occurred. People who have managed to disregard the public trespassing laws have described hearing the screams of victims, a clawing at the door, and the faint sound of crackling music, sounding as though the notes themselves were burning into ash. Number 1, Manila Film Center. The Manila Film Center is an iconic and controversial structure. It stands as a symbol of both the Philippines' aspirations in the world of cinema and the dark shadows that sometimes loom over the industry. Located on the longshore of Manila Bay, this controversial building was constructed as a venue for the 1982 Manila International Film Festival, an event that planned to showcase both Filipino and international cinema. However, the story behind its construction and the subsequent events have left a permanent mark on the country's history. It was built during the regime of the then President Ferdinand Marcos, and the construction of the Manila Film Center was surrounded by secrecy and controversy. To meet the tight deadline for the festival's opening, an estimated 4,000 workers were employed, working round-the-clock in hazardous conditions. Tragically, a portion of the building collapsed on November 17, 1981, burying several workers under the rubble, still alive. At the demand of the government to expedite the center's completion, the workers' bodies, alive and dead were covered in cement and left entombed within the structure. Despite this tragedy, the Manila Film Center still opened its doors on January 18, 1982, with much fanfare. It became a hub for film enthusiasts and filmmakers, hosting international film screenings and competitions. And most of them had no idea that they were standing on top of a mass grave. However, the controversy surrounding its construction continued to haunt the venue. Rumors of paranormal activities, particularly ghosts of the workers who lost their lives during the construction, further fueled the Manila Film Center's infamy. In the years that followed, the Manila Film Center faced challenges, including changes in ownership and management. It fell into disrepair and was largely abandoned, becoming a dilapidated and spooky relic of the past. Various proposals for its renovation and revitalization were put forward, but none of them came to fruition. Despite its troubled history, the Manila Film Center remains a significant piece of architectural heritage in the Philippines. In recent years, there have been renewed efforts to restore and repurpose the building. Some have suggested transforming it into a cultural and arts center, while others see its potential as value for events and expeditions, or others see its potential as a venue for events and exhibitions. The government has even received and reviewed applications for the renovations and proposals for the building's future. There's no memorial dedication for the workers that lost their lives, and the government does not accept the blame or take responsibility for the tragedy that occurred because of their impatience. Many people travel from all over the world and country hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghosts of fallen workers.
Number 3, the Forbidden City. The Forbidden City. Well, that tracks. That sounds very forbidden. Well, back in the 14th century, when it stood as the heart of the Ming dynasty and served as an imperial palace, yeah, you'd have a pretty difficult time getting access if you were but a common serf like myself. But I think they've relaxed their stance just a little bit, because I found more than a few Google recommended articles for tourist things to do in the Forbidden City. I think they just charge like price of admission now. So it's actually very easy to get into the Forbidden City, and the Chinese government does know about this. So the formerly Forbidden City, which is not quite as catchy a name, is a beautiful tourist spot and definitely worth checking out. It's got years upon years of culture and rich history behind it, and most importantly, it's said to be very haunted. The Forbidden City is a pretty credible place for a haunting, if I must say. Ghosts are said to be born out of a place of malice, and the Forbidden City has over 600 years of deaths, assassinations, and who knows how many backstabs and plot twists where the intrigue are out there. The most recurring ghost story coming out of the Forbidden City, though, is that there's a ghost of a weeping woman, all dressed in white, wandering during the dark hours. Following her is a lingering flute playing. Visitors claim at times they see ghost dogs that run through corridors at the edge of the city, digging up ghost bones. Some travelers report feeling an indescribable strangeness while wandering through the temples. Could it just be they're overcome with beauty and majesty of one of the wonders of the world, or is there spectral energy floating through the air? Before we move off on this one, I want you to take a look at this. A travel blog from Vancouver posted about their experiences traveling through the Imperial City. They noted how odd it was that all the doorways had a raised platform. The guide told them that was a way to confuse ghosts to keep them out. They took tons of photos, but only one stood out for them when they came back. See anything suspicious? Like a ghostly figure just kinda hanging right there in the center? Ugh. Number 2, Dead Fangman Village. Coming up next on this list is going to be Fangman Village. Fangman Village is sometimes known as Dead Fangman's Village, which is not exactly the most welcoming name you want to hear, but there's a pretty good reason for it though. The village itself is about as dead as a village can be, long abandoned by an unknown tribe. It's located in the valley of a nameless mountain in northern China's Henan province. An abandoned city left in a nameless mountain. It seems like it's the start of a chosen one, like heroic journey out there, start of a quest. The surrounding landscape is supposedly quite beautiful. A flowing brook, a lush forestry and trees, and buildings from the Qing dynasty. 39 buildings, 200 rooms, all of them left completely vacant. And the weird part? No one even knows why. There is extremely little information to be found on Fangman Village. Who lived there, what happened to them, and so on, making it absolutely rife for urban legends of hauntings and ghosts. It's a fairly popular spot for backpackers and hikers with an interest in the supernatural who are looking to discover something in the lost village. One story tells of a hiker named Maitreya who would make expeditions out to Fangman Village, camping alongside the river just outside with a few companions. On one of his treks, he got the bright idea in the middle of the night to prank his companions by jumping and scaring them, which, let me just say, I absolutely have to respect that. You're camping out in an abandoned ghost village, you have to seize the opportunity to prank your friends just a little bit. Well, before he got a chance, he got served up his own scare because he swears a discordant, sad-sounding voice kept calling his name out over and over in a voice he said he couldn't recognize or had never heard before. And none of his friends had any idea what he was talking about. At number 1, Chow Nai 81. Our next entry is Chow Nai number 81, a building that has a fairly notable reputation, being listed as the most haunted building in Beijing. It's Beijing's most famous haunted house. The ghost most commonly reported in this house is that of a woman who was the wife of an officer in the National Revolutionary Army during the Chinese Civil War in the late 1940s. He had fled to Taiwan with his compatriots before the end of the war and left his precious wife behind. Naturally, she was pretty upset about this. She was despondent. She felt that without her husband, she had nothing left to live for and thusly took her own life. And her spirit has been trapped in the house ever since. Residents who live around the area claim that during thunderstorms you can hear shrill, violent screaming coming from inside the house. Visitors report that walking into the house immediately, you feel a cold chill come over you and a feeling of inescapable dread. Not good. Not good to feel those things. There's stories of people going inexplicably missing connected to this mysterious house. One notable story is that of a British priest who is said to have initially built the property to serve as a church who went missing shortly before it was finished. When an investigation was launched to look for him, they supposedly discovered a secret tunnel that led to a neighborhood in the northeast, and the priest's body was never discovered. Now, another story was that 3 construction workers in the basement of a neighboring building weren't paying attention to what they were doing and broke through a thin wall leading into building 81. They went through the hole and the 3 of them vanished. And now there are people who conspire that this event is what led the government to cancel its plans to demolish the building for fear that it might be haunted. And it hasn't been yet because it's still standing there, and you're more than welcome to visit. You can take a guided ghost tour if you're feeling brave enough, and hopefully you come back.
Number 5, the Sulu Archipelago and Sea. The Sulu Archipelago, located in the southwestern regions of the Philippines, is known for its stunning natural beauty, but it is also known for the complex challenges that have risen. The region consists of many small islands, including Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and Basilan, and is surrounded by the Sulu Sea. The current state of the Sulu Archipelago and its surrounding seas involves a mixture of socio-economic, security, and political concerns. The Sulu Archipelago has been labeled as a level 4 safety risk by the United States Bureau of Consular Affairs, and it is strongly recommended that you do not travel or visit the area. The Sulu Archipelago is currently facing high rates of crime, civil unrest, rebel forces, and abductions. Armed groups are currently and consistently plotting abductions, bombings, and other attacks, with no discretion or care for citizen casualties. They attack with little to no warning and specifically target tourist locations like markets, malls, or government facilities. Rebels are abducting people on land and sea for ransom, bombings, and other attacks that target US citizens, foreigners, civilians, and local government institutions, security forces, and authorities. The US government has a limited ability to help or provide services to civilians, because US government employees have to obtain a special authorization to travel to the affected areas. The Philippine government declared that they are in a state of national emergency. There are a lot of pickpockets, scammers, internet scams, and credit card scams. People are warned to turn down offers of food, drinks, or rides from strangers. Travelers traveling alone have been abducted after they were slipped a strong sedative. Because of the current climate, the Sulu Archipelago is not a safe place to visit, and it is definitely not a safe place to live. I think that too often people think that wars and organized criminal attacks are a thing of the past, or that they're exaggerated. They're not. If anything, the attacks that are shared are often sugar-coated. This is all happening now. People right now, people your age, people my age are being killed, tormented, abducted, essayed, and are living in constant rational fear. A lot more attention definitely needs to be brought to the situation, and the fact that any coverage surrounding the Philippines is so unbelievably minimal and inaccessible is so saddening, and I'm sure frustrating for anyone who has loved ones in the Philippines or lives in the Philippines themselves. Number 4, De La Salle University. De La Salle University is a private Catholic research and educational university. It was established by the Institute of the Brothers of the Christian Schools in 1911 as De La Salle College, which changed to De La Salle University in 1975 when it was granted university status. When it was founded, the De La Salle brothers were nervously reluctant to open the school because Americans insisted that the first school made should only be available to the ruling Filipino elite. However, a school for the upper-class children of ruling elite families who need good moral and spiritual training was opened. By 1921, the school had 425 students. The school offered amazing programs and was widely appreciated for the educational staff and grand accommodations. But during the Second World War, De La Salle was used as a secret shelter for displaced citizens, wounded soldiers, families, and freedom fighters at the beginning of the Japanese occupation. But on January 2nd, 1942, it was occupied by the Imperial Japanese Army and made into military defense quarters. Several bombings and attacks occurred on campus, but classes did continue until they were discontinued and forced to vacate the campus at the demand of Japanese forces. Most people left the campus, but Egbert Xavier Kelly refused to leave. So on February 7th, 1945, he was abducted by Japanese soldiers, harmed severely, and then killed. On February 12th, just after noon, 20 Japanese soldiers forcibly entered the campus and massacred 16 boys who resided in the chapel of the campus and an additional 25 other residents. There were only 22 survivors. It's now said that the ghosts of the students, teachers, and families are searching for safety. They're still trapped in the same place they died. It has since become a dark tourism location, which a lot of people find to be extremely strange. Tourism that focuses on places with dark or tragic histories, like cemeteries, war sites, churches, or sites that people passed at. Since the site is an active school, tourists are not very welcome to visit the location. Many people do try to sneak in, but it's highly discouraged, and any overly curious onlookers may be arrested, charged with trespassing, or have legal action taken out against them.
Number 3 on this list is St. Augustine's Lighthouse. Ah yes, the haunted lighthouse, a true classic. Thrillist says St. Augustine's iconic lighthouse is a Florida landmark built in 1874. But climb up its 219 steps, and it's not just the views that will take your breath away. First, there's the ghost of Joseph Andrew, the original lighthouse keeper who fell to his death while painting the 165-foot tower. Then there are the Pity's two daughters who were playing with a building cart when it broke loose and slid into the nearby bay, drowning them both. While the girls giggle and run up and down the lighthouse steps, Joseph has been reported smoking cigars at the top of the lighthouse, keeping watch over his forever home. You know guys, if I had to be a ghost, then being Joseph wouldn't be the worst. I get to look out at the pretty scenery at the top of my lighthouse where hardly anyone bothers me, and I get to smoke cigars all day. Like, obviously I wouldn't want to be a ghost, but if I had to be, then this wouldn't be that bad. Either way, I'm not a ghost now. I am very much a human being, and if I want to stay a human being, then I recommend avoiding this place. It can obviously be very jarring to see two little ghost girls running around, and even though all of these ghosts are supposed to be pretty chill, we know that the paranormal can be unpredictable. I'm sure that there are tons of other non-haunted Florida lighthouses around if you're really pining for a good view. Number 2 on this list is Fort East Martello. If you don't like dolls, then you really won't like this one, guys. Thrillist says if there is one rule all Floridians follow, it's do not mess with Robert the doll. The 4-foot figurine has terrorized anyone who hasn't taken him seriously since he was gifted to artist Robert Jean Otto in 1904. Otto blamed any mischievous act around him on Robert the doll, effectively coining the oft-repeated Robert did it mantra. The doll currently holds court inside Fort East Martello, where he lives inside a glass case surrounded by a constant soundtrack of haunting xylophone music. The room evokes a heavy air immediately upon entering, and the walls are papered with apology notes from cocky tourists who've dared cross the world's most haunted plaything. Even the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne, felt Robert's wrath when he suffered a series of health mishaps shortly after dissing the doll on his reality show. I don't like dolls, folks, especially the haunted variety, so this entry obviously had to make the list. Clearly it curses you after you see it because people literally have to come back here and ask for its forgiveness. I don't know if the notes work or not, but I guess that's all you can do when you're dealing with a haunted doll. Hopefully this doll can just chill out and stop haunting people, but in the meantime, I just flat out avoid going to this place in Florida altogether. And number 1 on this list is Casa Monica Resort and Spa. It really sucks that this place is so haunted because it's truly beautiful. Thrillist says St. Augustine's fanciest hotel is also its most haunted. In fact, this 5-star Mediterranean revival haunt is a hotbed of spectral activity. Children are heard running along the 4th floor, but no one is there. The radio in the Ponce de Leon suite randomly comes on, but no one's there. Guests of room 411 wake up to people staring at them, but no one's there. But it's the 3-story Flagler suite high in the tower that's most haunted. Maids have seen a child's handprint appear on the 1st floor bathroom mirror, and after knocking, one heard a man say, "We've been expecting you," from an empty bedroom. Its spookiest claim to fame, however, is the male ghost staring out of the top tower window. He's believed to be the ghost of one of 2 people, either Franklin Smith, the architect who built the hotel, or Henry Flagler, the man who purchased it. I personally don't care if it's the architect, the man who purchased it, or God. Anyone who says, "I've been waiting for you as I enter an empty bedroom," it's not the type of individual I want to be around. Also, where are these children coming from and what are those sounds? Okay, so you want to tell me a scary story where the architect of the building fell in love with his work and then when he died, his ghost stayed here. Alright, fine, I can buy that, I can believe that, but like, what are the children doing here? What do they have to do with this place and the architect? Maybe this is just one of those spots where it doesn't matter what happened here, it doesn't matter what will happen here in the future, it's just always destined to be haunted.